But anyway, enough about how great digital painting is. I actually prefer to do traditional painting because I love the the notion that there is, or the fact, I guess, that there is a physical piece involved at the end. You can do some digital prints. You can use your digital painting however you want in the end. But what I love about a physical oil painting or watercolor or acrylic painting is that you have a physical object to display, to hold, to look at, to share. And there's something about that that you just is hard to represent, even with the best digital print. So something else I want to mention before I forget about it because it just popped in my head. If you get a chance, once again, go check out artsquaredbooks.com or art2 the number 2 books.com. Um, Art Squared Publishing is a company that I've been doing a lot of work with, and they basically just trying to put out some great art books for artists whose work just needs to be seen. And like I said, Jan Optebeek's famous Corpses book, it was just an incredible, incredible idea, and to see it realized in the size and the weight and the way that it's finished is beautiful. Um, the writer Danielle Griffith is just incredibly funny, and the illustrator Emi Sato is a Japanese artist whose cartoons accompany Jan's drawings, his pencil drawings, and they're just really fun and hilarious and actually pretty intelligent when compared to the text and the drawing and the life of the person, what you may know about them or what may learn about them. What's in and what is not in the actual text of the book, which she represents with those little cartoons, they're just incredible. I've actually got a little YouTube video up that I worked on with my friend Brian Hames. He did a lot of the animating and directing with me, and I did some other stuff for it. It's just a sample in the style of the book. Just look up famous corpses on YouTube, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, there's a lot of great books there. I'm putting out my next sketchbook next year. Just if I could talk about that for a second, I hope you don't mind the little commercial, but uh, I have all these sketches laying around my house. Just I have loose pages from illustrations that I started, doodles. I used to actually buy the cheapest printer paper you can find. And for those of you artists on a budget, but you just want to draw, you love to draw, definitely don't be afraid to go buy the cheapest printer paper at Staples or Office Max, whatever generic version you can find. It's great for drawing. Don't worry about it if it's just sketching, if it's just doodling, if it's just practice. Just get that surface as cheap as you need, as little money as you can spend. It's definitely okay. I used to buy the number two. I still do buy the yellow number 2 pencils, Dixon Ticonderoga soft number 2 pencils. Um, Buy them by the box for just pennies, and buy the cheap printer or copier paper, Xerox paper or Staples generic paper for just a few dollars, and you've got drawing supplies for months. It's excellent. And anyway, I have all those pages from those days laying around my house from years ago, and even just a couple years ago, even as recent as a year ago or so with that. And I have all my sketchbooks just laying around my house. Here you can see I'm just blocking in the background color in the painting. If I can go back to the actual painting for a second, just blocking in darks and lights and creating my edge. So I have all these paintings and not paintings, sorry, sketches and drawings and sketchbooks laying around my house, and I started looking at them. And one thing I've experienced, and I feel that artists are very similar, artists who really care about improving, who really care about the quality of their work and the quality of other people's work, just as important. To see other people improve helps me improve. I get inspired by seeing good art. So if I can inspire someone, then they'll inspire someone, and they'll inspire me and other artists, and the quality of all of our craft just improves exponentially. So I enjoy that. And I remember years ago, I found Steve Silver's books. Steven Silver is a character designer, if you don't know who he is. He's done Clerks, the animated series characters. He designed Kim Possible, all the characters on that show. Danny Phantom. He's done stuff for Sony, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Disney. He's a big name in character design right now. But years ago when I met him through the NCN, the National Caricaturist Network, you can find more about them at caricature.org, Caricature. Anyone that can't spell caricature, don't worry, there's lots of people that can. I met him there, and he had some books for sale, and I bought a few sketchbooks. This one little one that he published, it was maybe 5 inches by 7 inches, really small. And it had so many drawings in it, just doodles, loose sketches, some finished ink, brush pen, stuff he did with Prismacolor pencils and chart pack markers and Copic brush pens. And it was just these doodles and practices that he had and compiled into a sketchbook. I could look at this book every day at work in the theme parks when I was doing caricatures live. I could take it to gigs. I could sit at home, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I could sit on the toilet and just stare at that. Great bathroom reading. Um, but I was inspired. I was excited just seeing his line work, seeing his practice, knowing what he does for a living and seeing how he got there. There's so much you can learn just by looking at that. So I would see all my doodles and sketchbooks laying around the house. And I feel like there's got to be something in this. I feel like some of it is appealing. I have some friends that like seeing my sketchbooks. So I've got to do something with this. But to me, it wasn't just enough to publish a sketchbook. I mean, there are people that should publish a sketchbook. There's Lion Deckers, there's Sebastian Kruger and Steve Silvers out there, and there's so many great artists that I want to learn from. But there's a part of me that's a little too uh, I guess you could say humble. It's not humble to say that, but there's a part of me that has too much humility that I feel like I don't deserve to have a sketchbook out there. So I thought, what could make this, what can convince me to push this over the edge and just put it out there? Because I do know that anyone publishing a sketchbook who is seriously honest with themselves and with their artwork, it's worth it. But I'm a little embarrassed and a little shy to do that. So what I decided to do is contact all the people that I respect, my peers, my colleagues, my coworkers. There's people that who are in animation. There's people in illustration that do design, that are just painters. There's caricaturists. There's portrait artists. There's everyone from every scope of art that I know and that I respect who does things that are a little similar to me. There's Steve Brodner, there's Philip Burke, John Cash, big names that you know, and there's also people that I worked with in theme parks like Aaron Philby and Bo Hufford and Jeremy Townsend, who might not be as well known, but I see the quality in their work. People like Dan Hay, who I'll mention in a second, and I asked them to provide some quotes, some information to me. What is important about sketching to them? What do they get out of it? And I told them, gave them a few quotes of my own and said, here's what I find important in sketching. This is why I love it. And this is why I'm doing this. And they were all very excited and helpful to contribute. So this sketchbook that I'm going to be putting out is a hardcover book next year in 2009. And I think you're going to really love it. I've packed as many drawings as I can. I scanned everything from the last several years, and I took about the top 10 to 30% of it that I thought was appealing or interesting or quality or something you can get something out of. And I crammed them in there as tight as I can. It's going to be a nice little sketchbook you can carry around. And there's quotes on every single page from artists that you've heard of, some you haven't heard of, and some people, some names that are big, and some people that you'll really, really respond to. So I'm hoping you'll enjoy that. Look for that. But that's going to be at artsquaredbooks.com, so you'll have to check that out. You can see what I did here in the painting is I threw a layer of red right on top of the drawing. And from there, I treat it like I did in the beginning. I put a layer of red on top of the drawing. I dropped the opacity. It's I believe a multiply layer. No, maybe not. One is a multiply layer, so it makes the whole drawing very red, and then I put another layer of red on top, and then just drop the opacity. You play around with layers and with multiply and screen and the different settings for the layers at the top of the layer menu over there, and you'll find a comfortable way of working around that. And then what I'm going to do here is, like I said earlier in the video, I am taking Ron Perlman's caricature and I'm turning it into a caricature of Hellboy from the movie. So I'm painting right on top of these red layers on a separate layer, just like I'm painting with acrylics right on a canvas. The only thing I did to fudge it a little bit in there was to throw those red layers on. And I'm just blocking in the changes that I'm making first. So you can see the brow of Hellboy is really dropped low. So I threw a few lines on top there and the crease on the bridge of his nose. I know I'm going to want to paint those changes. Again, I'm painting the horns, the shadow and the highlight around the horns and the head, because those are some important changes that I want to make